Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and today we're going to have a look at Winter Storm Bella. Now, I'm calling it Winter Storm because there is a chance that we do see some very significant impacts from this. Not only the rain and wind warnings we have now, but early next week there's potential for some significant snowfall in certain regions. Now, if we go to Thursday, Christmas Eve, you can see we have two warnings in force right now. We've got two ice warnings because of hard overnight frost, and there's going to be some rain, wintry showers today and overnight in these areas on these eastern coasts. So all of that will freeze over tonight. There's a chance of some snowfall potentially across the eastern coast, and we've already seen some accumulations in sort of Newcastle, all the way down the coast here, almost getting to Lincolnshire. So there's some accumulations in certain areas where got heavy snow showers. As there's some snow showers coming in on that sort of northeasterly wind. I'm expecting there'll be a few showers in East Anglia into London this evening and overnight. So there's a chance we do see some, maybe a few flurries here or there. Don't expect any accumulations, but just something nice to look in the lamppost tonight. As we're into Friday, again these ice warnings are in force, pretty much because of the overnight threat. Of some ice. If we move into Saturday, Storm Bella sort of sinks south across the UK. Very unusual track for a significant area of low pressure coming down from Iceland on like a north to south alignment. And if we have a look, we've got rainfall warnings, and then we've got a big wind warning, and then an amber wind warning is the sort of, well, initially westerly winds, but will just turn to northerly on the back edge. Quite cold conditions. Initially, it'll be relatively mild with the first band of rain, but after that, I'm expecting to see some snow warnings come into force further north on probably Sunday night into Monday and Tuesday, as there's a chance that we start to see quite some significant snowfall behind the main band of rain. But this is sort of the start of Winter Storm Bella. When it first arrives, it'll be quite mild with quite significant winds and heavy rainfall. Most of the rain warnings are simply because we've had a lot of accumulation rain already, so it's sort of totting up. Not necessarily this event's going to be massive, maybe an inch or two of rain, but again, that's not too unusual for these regions. It's just with the amount of rain that we've had already, it could be quite significant flooding around. If we move into Sunday, same sort of weather warnings. The rain in Scotland is gone, but same sort of ample weather warnings around yellow warnings for significant conditions. And we'll have a look at the pressure patterns in a minute on the GFS and Ecmwf, and you'll see why I say potentially winter storm. We'll have a look at that now. So we're on the GFS model right now, and as you can see, this is the 6 o'clock run, so this only came out a few hours ago. And we saw this northeasterly wind. This is why we have got the ice warning and a few snow showers around. But high pressure will topple in for Christmas Day. So it goes dry, fine on Christmas Day, quite cold, highs maybe only 3 or 4 degrees, and quite hard overnight frost into Christmas Day. But overnight, we see this Storm Bella here drop down from Iceland, very unusual track, and it's because we're seeing significant northern blocking in December and into January, which is an unusual pattern, for at least quite an unusual pattern for the last few years. And it's going to bring us probably some snowfall here or there, but I'll get onto that in a minute. But the storm quite deep plunges across the UK. You see, that's where we're going to see the strong winds along the southern coastal areas, where those ice bars tighten. And you see, this is the main area of low pressure weather fronts out here. And if you look at the upper air temperatures, reasonably mild ahead of the low pressure. However, as we move through into Monday, the low pressure moves to our south and east, and we pull down some colder northerly air, and you see this little other feature sort of brewing. If we have a look at the upper edge, you see it's not particularly mild, it's not particularly cold either. If we have a look at the local upper airs, it's around -4, -3, with this little feature running into Ireland, and then we've got much colder air to our north and our west. Now, you might not think this is not normally conducive to snow, however, the temperature is going to be low, 1 or 2 degrees in mainland England and Scotland, dew points below freezing, and with pretty slack winds in the centre here, or compared to further out the Atlantic, where you see some more slacker winds towards the centre of low pressure, it's likely the temperatures will drop quite significantly, and that's why in the central so we're seeing quite a lot of colder weather. And as this low moves through, we could see some weather fronts here, and this could bring quite a significant area of rain or snow. And you can see that sort of moves across the southern coast and then bumps back into the southeast as that low moves around. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. Something we need to keep an eye on. As we move through, Storm Bella sort of mills around the UK. It will just fill in, but we'll still see a lot of showers around and northerly wind. And although it won't be Storm Bella by this stage, it's still in the same area of low pressure. So that's why I sort of say winter Storm Bella, because initially it starts with mild rain and windy, but it ends quite cold, snowy, uh, and windy as well with these northerly winds. I wouldn't be surprised to see snowfall pretty much everywhere across the UK at some point over the next week. Whether, well, maybe apart from a few local regions, maybe on the south coast, for example, southwest, but most areas should see some form of snowfall, and it's most likely going to be showers, and mostly accumulating over hills, but we'll have to keep an eye on it because, as you see with the little feature I showed you a minute ago, that could develop, change, and it'll be very marginal whether anything does come off. But as we move through the run, we're seeing northern blocking with this Greenland High building, which is something we haven't seen for many, many years. And again, the most famous Greenland High we've had in recent memory is December to Remember, where the CET was below freezing. So very cold conditions can happen with Greenland High. Now we're looking at quite cold and snowy conditions with this Greenland High, especially showers. We can't pinpoint exact amount of snowfall or exact regions for snowfall, but I can assure you there will be some snow around, some precipitation around, most likely wintry as we move into January, so later next week. Now, unfortunately, a lot of the cold air that would hopefully be pulling in from this is further north and east over Siberia. Now, the Greenland High brings down colder air from like Svalbard and Scandinavia, which is not particularly cold, unfortunately, this year at this moment. So only bringing the -5 through, and even -10 might get close. So it'll be quite cold, but it won't be bitterly cold like we could have seen with a different setup. Unfortunately, we don't have the quite cold conditions, but again, it's still got time to develop. And as we end this GFS run, we pull down a low pressure directly from Svalbard, pulling bitterly cold northerly winds with cold air wrapped around it, cold air below it, and we'd probably be seeing very significant snowfall with this area of low pressure. But again, it's almost 2 weeks away, so it's unlikely to verify, but it just shows you what could happen with a Greenland High. And again, we have just an area of low pressure milling around with quite cold air to our north. So again, if we did pull off another Greenland High build in, we do have quite a lot of cold air to our north, ready to plunge down. Now, we'll have a look at the Ecmwf. We won't look at it in detail, as it just shows a very similar pattern to the GFS. And you can see there, that's where we see those sort of slack winds. That's why I say there's a chance we do see quite cold conditions, even though the upper airs aren't as cold as we'd like for snowfall. But as we finish the run again, another Greenland High building, so very good cross-model agreements with this Greenland High building. And we pull in northeasterly winds, and again, that high is staying there. We're putting in quite cold northeasterly winds, quite cold air wrapped around it. In this sort of setup, you don't even need the -5 for snow, simply because of the flow of the air is coming from the north and the northeast. So the dew points will be below freezing, the thickness will be below the 528 line, so it's all conducive for snow, and we ideally would have colder upper airs, but it still doesn't matter as much as if this was like a frontal system coming in off the Atlantic. Lastly, we'll have a look at the GFS upper airs and precipitation, and this is for London, so it's going to be a bit milder here than it would be further north at least, but you can see right now we've got quite cold conditions. Milder air comes in before Storm Bella. After that, cold conditions set in for the long run, really, until maybe the 4th, 5th of January. We're pretty locked into quite cold conditions, with the average around the -5, -4, so conducive for snow. But it does sort of raise up towards the end, but again, that's a few mild outliers. I've had a look at those over the last few couple of days because they've always been there. And it's normally where the Greenland block just sets up in the wrong position and it brings up southerly airflows, and putting northerly winds down into the middle of the Atlantic. Now that probably would end colder, but for the moment it's showing milder conditions. But you can see the operational run and a lot of ensemble members are going quite cold. Not bitterly cold, unfortunately, none going below the -10 line in the near future, which we'd want ideally for bitterly cold. But still, again, given it's end of December, early January, anything really around the -5 or colder is probably likely to give us quite cold conditions. Even next week, even though the upper air is only -3, -4 in London, we're looking at highs of 2-3 degrees and lows of around freezing. So quite cold conditions coming up. Rainfall spikes, there aren't that many. Again, there's the spikes initially with Storm Bella, and then there's those other spikes I was talking about with the potential for snowfall within these. But again, it's not particularly, the models haven't really computed exactly what's going to happen with that yet. So we'll have a look at this new snow depth in a minute. Beyond that, there's a lot of snow, rainfall and snowfall spikes around. But again, it's nothing really confirmed yet. Just pretty unsettled. So there'll be a lot of bands of showers and rain around. So again, we won't really be able to pinpoint any position of rainfall, snowfall, rain-snow lines until about a day or two beforehand. So we're going to be looking at end of this weekend really to have a look at some prospects for snowfall next week. If you have a look at the snow depth, you can see there are quite a lot of snow spikes around. Again, some showing significant snowfall, and I'd categorise significant snowfall as 2-3 inches up, which is like 8 to 10 centimetres upwards. Quite a few going for maybe 3 or 4 or 5 centimetres, which again, still pretty significant. And again, we just really need to pinpoint exactly what's going to happen with those. If we look at the dew point first, you can see it's around freezing for the foreseeable future, which again another checklist for snowfall. If we lastly have a look at the 2-meter temperature, you can see around 4 or 5 degrees and getting colder and colder. Again, there is a bit of a split between some of the ensembles. Some going a lot colder, 1 or 2 degrees highs, some going maybe 4 or 5, 6 degrees as highs. Regardless, it'll still feel very cold, and if we do see snowfall and precipitation around, those temperatures will drop with evaporative cooling, and if there's snowfall on the ground, it will naturally cool the temperatures down a little bit. So again, that's something the GFS and the ensemble members don't really take into account. These just look at raw upper airs and dew points and decide within that, not looking at maybe little microclimates or little things that can change the temperature by a degree or two. So general gist around 3 or 4 or 5 degrees of highs. Could be colder, could be warmer, depending on the exact day's sort of weather patterns, whether it's cloudy, raining, snowing. So again, it's something we need to keep an eye on, but generally quite cold for the foreseeable future. And I haven't highlighted it in this video, but sun stratospheric warming is still on course. We still have significant warming in the stratosphere. Models are sort of looking at a split of the polar vortex. One does go for it, the next one doesn't, but is quite a lot of the ensemble members in the long run now are going for a significant warming, which will will quite likely result in a reversal of the stratospheric winds in the polar vortex. So we will probably be looking at potential for a colder spell, or a more even colder spell in mid to end of January, and very interesting to see. I don't think it's ever happened before where we've had a natural blocking pattern like we've got right now on top of a sudden stratospheric warming, which would likely increase the blocking even more. I don't really know what would happen with that. I mean, you'd like to think we'd get some super Arctic block and we'd be plunged into bitterly cold air, but I don't know what would happen with that. As in some suggestions, people saying they don't want the sudden stratospheric warming, save it for next year because they don't know what's going to happen. Because currently there's a stratospheric tropospheric disconnect. So if it does connect again, there's potential that it means that later in the winter we go back to westerlies. But again, I mean, very interesting weather conditions and it's enjoyable. simply because the last couple of years have been pretty dire for any cold conditions. And literally, you've been watching them all for a brief northwesterly, bringing the -5 through with a few snow showers on it on a Tuesday night or something. That's what you've really been looking at the last few years. But quite significant cold patches coming up. And December's going to be around to maybe just above average for the CET, given that middle of December was quite mild. But I'm expecting January to be quite cold, especially the start's going to be very cold. Middle of January, don't really know what's going to happen yet. It's unlikely this blocking setup's going to disintegrate quickly to a westerly pattern, so maybe temperatures will recover to around average, and then with a sudden stress forming, it will go bitterly cold again, potentially towards the end of January. So we could be setting up quite a cold January, and maybe even a colder than average winter, given December's going to be around average to maybe above average. I'm expecting January to be slightly below average to maybe significantly below average, depending on what happens with the sudden stratospheric warming. And February, who knows, if there is a sudden stratospheric warming, it's likely that it will um, give us recurring blocks, like we did in 2018 when we got the first beast from the east, then we got a sort of mini beast from the east 2 weeks later with a 2 or 3 day bitterly cold spell. We could be seeing something like that, and given it's early in winter, it could set up even colder conditions. So who really knows what's going to happen? It's going to be something we've really got to keep an eye on, and again, savour the chances of cold conditions over the next few weeks and months, because it could be something we don't see again for a couple of years, knowing our luck. But anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Stay safe out there this Christmas with all the virus and Storm Bella as well. But anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe and I'll see you again for another.